The cargo ship moved through the darkness of space like a whale swimming through an ocean. Its name was Meridian's Hope, and it carried supplies for the mining colonies on the edge of human territory. Captain Maria Chen sat in her command chair, drinking coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. The bridge was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors. "Captain, we're approaching the threshold corridor," said Lieutenant Park from the navigation station. He was young, barely 25, and this was only his third deep space run. Maria nodded. "Good. We'll be at the colony in another 6 hours." The threshold corridor was supposed to be safe. Hundreds of ships passed through it every month. Trade ships, passenger vessels, science expeditions. It was protected space patrolled by both human and allied forces. Maria had traveled this route 20 times before without any problems. That was about to change. "Captain," the sensor officer's voice cut through the quiet like a knife. "Multiple contacts. Ships decloaking around us." Maria's coffee cup hit the floor. She was already standing, her eyes fixed on the main screen. 7 ships appeared out of nowhere, surrounding them in a perfect circle. They were big, at least twice the size of Meridian's Hope. Their hulls were dark red, covered in sharp angles and weapon ports. "Kresh Dominion warships," whispered Park. His face had gone pale. Maria felt ice in her stomach, but her voice stayed calm. "Battle stations. Send a distress signal on all frequencies." The Kresh were predators. Everyone in the galaxy knew it. They had been expanding their territory for the past 10 years by attacking weak targets. They would surround a ship, demand surrender, and then claim the ship and its cargo as payment for trespassing in their space. It was organized piracy dressed up as law enforcement. The communication system crackled to life. A harsh clicking voice filled the bridge. The translator turned it into words Maria could understand. "Human vessel. You have entered Kresh-claimed territory. Power down your engines. Prepare to be boarded. Surrender your ship and cargo. You have 2 minutes to comply." Maria looked at her crew. 40 people on this ship. 40 lives depending on her next decision. She saw fear in their eyes, but also trust. They believed she would save them. "Send a response," Maria said quietly. "Tell them this is a civilian vessel in neutral space. We have passage rights under the Galactic Trade Agreement." The censor officer, a woman named Chen who shared Maria's last name but was not related, shook her head. "Captain, they're not listening. They're charging weapons." On the screen, energy began to glow along the Kresh ship's weapon arrays. 7 ships against 1 cargo vessel. There was no fight here. There was only surrender or death or something else. Maria closed her eyes for just a moment. She saw her daughter's face. Emma had been 12 years old when the Kresh attacked the colony ship Aurora's Dream 5 years ago. The ship had surrendered. The Kresh had taken everything and left the passengers floating in escape pods in deep space. By the time rescue arrived, half of them had died, including Emma. That was when humanity had decided that surrender was worse than death. Maria opened her eyes. They were hard now, filled with a terrible determination. "Open a channel," she said. "All frequencies." "Channel open, Captain." Maria took a deep breath. When she spoke, her voice was clear and strong. "Kresh vessels, this is Captain Maria Chen of the Meridian's Hope. We are a civilian cargo ship operating in neutral space under legal trade agreements. Your attack is unprovoked and illegal." The Kresh commander responded immediately. "You have 1 minute to surrender. After that, we will fire." Maria looked at her crew one more time. Some of them already knew what was coming. She could see it in their faces. The older ones, the ones who had been in space long enough to know about the protocol. "Negative," Maria said, her voice steady. "We do not surrender." Silence filled the bridge. On the screen, the Kresh ship seemed to pause as if they couldn't believe what they had just heard. "You refuse?" The Kresh commander's voice carried confusion and anger. "You are 1 ship. We are 7. You cannot fight us. You cannot escape. Surrender or die." Maria turned to her weapons officer, a gray-haired man named Rodriguez. "Authorization Chen 7 Alpha. Execute Prometheus Protocol." Rodriguez's hands moved across his console. "Authorization confirmed. Prometheus Protocol activated." Across all frequencies on every communication channel in this sector of space, a signal began to broadcast. It was a simple message, just a code and a location, but every human ship within 100 light-years would receive it and know what it meant. The Kresh ships opened fire. The first shots were warnings, blasts of energy that scorched past the Meridian's Hope without hitting it. Maria gripped her chair as the ship shook from the near misses. "They're trying to scare us," said Park. "Force us to surrender." "It won't work," Maria said quietly. "Rodriguez, how long until the device is armed?" 15 minutes, Captain." The Kresh commander's voice came again, now filled with rage. "Last chance, humans. Surrender now." Maria's response was simple. "God forgive us." The Kresh ship stopped firing warning shots and began firing to kill. The Meridian's Hope shuddered as the first real attack hit its shields. Red lights flashed across every console on the bridge. Alarms screamed warnings about hull breaches and failing systems. Shield strength at 60% called out Chen from sensors. "They're not playing anymore." Commander Vexlar of the Kresh Dominion watched the human ship on his display screen. He stood in the center of his command deck, his forearms crossed in confusion. In his 30 years of military service, he had never seen prey act like this. "Why do they not surrender?" he asked his tactical officer. "We have shown them our power. They cannot win." "Unknown, Commander," replied the officer. "Perhaps they do not understand the situation." Vexlar clicked his mandibles together in thought. He had studied humans before this mission. They were weak creatures. No claws, no natural armor, no venom. They had conquered their home world through tool use and cooperation, nothing more. They were smart, yes, but not warriors. Not like the Kresh. He had read reports about human psychology. They valued survival. They made deals. They compromised. They were reasonable. So why were they refusing to be reasonable now? "Send another message," Vexlar ordered. "Tell them we will spare their lives if they surrender immediately. Remind them we are being generous." On the Meridian's Hope, Maria heard the offer and almost laughed. Generous. They thought destroying her ship and stealing everything was generous because they would let the crew live. "Hull breach on deck 3, shouted Park. "We're venting atmosphere." "Seal it off," Maria ordered. "All non-essential personnel to the cargo bay. Now." The crew moved quickly, following emergency procedures they had drilled 100 times. They ran through corridors as the ship shook around them, heading toward the massive cargo hold at the center of the vessel. Maria stayed on the bridge with only 5 others. She watched the tactical display as the Kresh ships moved closer, tightening their circle. They were like sharks circling wounded prey, waiting for the moment to strike. "Captain," said Rodriguez quietly, "the device is armed. We can activate it at any time." Maria nodded but said nothing. She opened a private channel to engineering. "Thompson's status?" "We're ready down here, Captain," came the reply. Thompson was the chief engineer, a woman who had worked on cargo ships for 40 years. "Everyone knows what to do." "Good," Maria said. "I'm sorry it came to this." "Don't be sorry, Captain. We all volunteered. We all knew the risks when we signed on after the Aurora incident. Better this than surrender." Maria closed the channel and looked at the faces of her bridge crew. Park looked scared but determined. Chen was calm, her hands steady on her console. Rodriguez looked sad but resolute. They were ready. "Open a channel to the Kresh commander," Maria said. "Let me talk to him directly." Vexlar's face appeared on the screen. He looked like a giant insect crossed with a crustacean. 4 arms, compound eyes, mandibles that clicked when he spoke. To humans, the Kresh looked like nightmares. To the Kresh, humans looked like soft, hairless prey animals. "You wish to surrender now?" Vexlar asked. "A wise decision." "No," Maria said. "I want you to understand something. 5 years ago, your people attacked a colony ship called Aurora's Dream. They surrendered. You took everything and left them to die. My daughter was on that ship. She was 12 years old." Vexlar's mandibles twitched. "That was a legal seizure of assets. They trespassed in our space." "They were in neutral territory," Maria said, her voice hard. "Just like we are now. And because of what you did to them, humanity made a decision. We decided that surrender was no longer an option. We decided that we would rather die than let you do this to anyone else." "Then you will die," Vexlar said. "Foolish." "Maybe," Maria agreed. "But we won't die alone." She cut the connection and turned to Rodriguez. "Activate the device. Full power." Rodriguez pressed a sequence of buttons. Deep in the cargo hold, something began to hum with terrible energy. On his command deck, Vexlar saw new readings appear on his sensors. Energy signatures were spiking inside the human ship. Power levels that made no sense for a cargo vessel. "What is that?" he demanded. "What are they doing?" "Unknown technology, Commander," his science officer reported. "The energy output is enormous. It's not a weapon. It's something else. Could it be a self-destruct device? No, Commander. The energy pattern is wrong. This is not an explosive. This is something we have never seen before. Vexlar felt something he rarely experienced: uncertainty. These humans were not behaving correctly. They should have surrendered by now. They should be begging for mercy. Instead, they were activating some kind of unknown device and continuing to broadcast that signal on all frequencies. Board the ship, Vexlar ordered suddenly. I want to know what they are doing. Prepare a boarding party. We take the ship by force. His tactical officer hesitated. Commander, the ship is heavily damaged. It could explode. Then we board quickly, Vexlar snapped. I want answers. On the Meridian's Hope, alarms blared a new warning. The Kresh were preparing to board. Maria looked at her crew and smiled sadly. It's time, she said. Everyone to the escape pods. Abandon ship. Captain? Park looked confused. But the device will continue to run on automatic, Maria finished. We've done our part. Now we survive to tell the story. They moved quickly through the damaged corridors. The ship was dying around them, sparks flying from broken panels, smoke filling the air. They reached the escape pod bay and began climbing inside the small vessels. Maria was the last to leave the bridge. She took one final look around at the chair where she had spent so many hours, at the screens showing the Kresh ships closing in. I'm sorry, she whispered to her ship. Thank you for carrying us this far. Then she ran for the escape pods. As the small vessel launched and moved away from the Meridian's Hope, Maria watched the Kresh boarding ships attached to her vessel's hull. She saw Kresh soldiers in armor cutting through the airlock. They were going inside. They would find the device, and then they would understand what they had done. In the distance, far beyond sensor range, a massive human fleet was already on its way. They had received the Prometheus signal. They were coming not to rescue, but to witness, and to record what happened when you attacked a human ship. Vexlar's boots clanged against the metal floor of the Meridian's Hope. His boarding party of 20 Kresh soldiers moved through the damaged corridors with weapons ready. Emergency lights cast everything in a red glow. The ship groaned around them like a dying animal. The crew abandoned ship, reported his second officer. Life pod launches detected. Should we pursue? No, Vexlar said. Let them float in space and think about their foolishness. I want to know what device they activated. Find it. They moved deeper into the ship. Bodies floated in some corridors. Crew members who had not made it to the escape pods in time. Vexlar ignored them. Death was death. What mattered was understanding what these humans had been doing. His science officer, Krell, stopped suddenly. Her scanner was making frantic beeping sounds. Commander, I'm detecting a massive energy source. Cargo Bay 2. The readings are increasing. Show me, Vexlar ordered. They made their way to the cargo bay. The massive door had been left open. Inside, the bay was mostly empty except for scattered containers and equipment. But in the center of the floor sat a sphere. It was 3 meters across, made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Symbols were carved into its surface. Human writing. The sphere was humming, a deep bass note that Vexlar could feel in his bones. Blue light pulsed from inside it, growing brighter with each pulse. What is it? Vexlar asked. Krell moved closer with her scanner. Some kind of generator. But the energy type is unknown. Wait, Commander. This is a gravity manipulation device. It's creating a localized gravitational field and increasing it exponentially. A weapon? Not exactly. It's more like... Krell's voice trailed off as she read her scanner. Her mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of fear. Commander, we need to leave. Now, explain. This device is creating an artificial singularity. A black hole. It started small, microscopic, but it's growing. In approximately 70 hours, it will be large enough to consume everything within a 5 light-year radius. Vexlar felt his blood go cold. Can we shut it down? Krell worked frantically at her controls. No, the activation sequence is locked. Even destroying the device won't stop it now. The singularity exists in a pocket dimension that the device is bridging. Breaking the device will only release it faster. A sound made Vexlar spin around. In the corner of the cargo bay, hidden behind a container, something moved. One of the Kresh soldiers raised his weapon. Wait, Vexlar ordered. He approached slowly. Behind the container, he found a human. A man in an engineering uniform, badly wounded. Blood covered his chest and his breathing was shallow. But he was smiling. You found it, the human said in weak voice. The translator made his words understandable. Good. I wanted someone to see it before I died. What have you done? Vexlar demanded. What is this device? The human coughed, blood on his lips. The Prometheus Protocol. Every human ship has one. Every single ship, military or civilian. After Aurora's dream, after you murdered all those people, we decided, never again, never surrender. You created a doomsday weapon? On every ship? Not a weapon, the human corrected. A deterrent. Attack a human ship, this activates. Can't turn it off, can't escape it. We all die together. You, us, everyone. Vexillar grabbed the human by his collar, lifting him up. You're insane. You would destroy yourselves just to hurt us. The human laughed, even though it obviously caused him pain. We're not trying to hurt you. We're trying to make sure you understand. You can't prey on us. You can't take our ships, our cargo, our people, because the price is too high. Every human ship is a bomb, and you just triggered it. There must be a way to stop it. There isn't. The human's eyes were starting to close. It's done. 70 hours from now, everything in 5 light years is gone. Your ships, our ship, those 3 Kresh colonies on the edge of this sector, all of it erased. Vexlar dropped the human and turned to Krell. Is this true? Can we escape the field? Krell checked her scanner again. Her voice shook. The gravitational field is already forming, moving at light speed in all directions. We're inside it, Commander. Even at maximum speed, we cannot escape in time. The singularity will reach us in 70 hours. Vexlar looked at his soldiers. They were all staring at him, waiting for orders, waiting for him to save them. But there was no salvation here. Return to the ships, he ordered. Immediately. We need to warn the Dominion. They ran back through the corridors, leaving the dying human behind. As they passed through the ship, Vexlar accessed the ship's computer. His technical skills allowed him to break through the basic security and access the logs. What he found made him wish he had never boarded this vessel. The logs showed the history of the Prometheus Protocol. After the Aurora's Dream incident, human leadership had held emergency meetings. They debated for weeks. Some wanted war. Others wanted diplomacy, but one group had a different idea. Make every ship a doomsday device. Install singularity generators on every vessel. If attacked, activate the device. Create an area of destruction so vast that no one would dare attack a human ship again. The debate had been fierce. Many humans opposed it. They said it was cruel, insane, suicidal. But the survivors of Aurora's Dream had spoken in favor. They had watched their families die because they surrendered. They said they would rather have died fighting, taking their attackers with them than live knowing they had given up. The vote was close. But it passed. Now every human ship was a potential disaster. Civilian cargo ships, passenger liners, science vessels, even small personal spacecraft. All of them carried a device that could erase light years of space. Vexillar reached his command ship and immediately opened communications to the Dominion homeworld. His face appeared on screens in the High Council chamber where the leaders of the Kresh Dominion sat. High Council, Vexillar said urgently. I must report a critical threat. The humans have developed a new defensive system. Every human ship is now equipped with a singularity weapon. If attacked, they will destroy everything around them. The council members looked at each other with confusion and disbelief. Explain, demanded the High Counselor. Vexillar told them everything. The device, the expanding black hole, the 70-hour countdown. As he spoke, he saw their expressions change from disbelief to horror. You're telling us, the High Counselor said slowly, that if we attack any human ship, they will create a black hole that destroys everything nearby? Yes, Vexillar confirmed, including themselves. They choose mutual destruction over surrender. That's insane. Yes, Vexillar agreed. But it's real. In 70 hours, my fleet will be gone. So will your colonies in this sector, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. The High Counselor sat back in his chair. Then the age of easy prey is over. 3 months after the Meridian's Hope incident, the Galactic Council convened in emergency session. The council chamber was enormous, a circular room with seats for representatives from 40 different species. Humans had only been members for 15 years, and before the incident, they were considered a minor power. Weak, new, inexperienced. That perception had changed. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the speaker's podium in the center of the chamber. She was not related to Captain Maria Chen, but she understood what the captain had done. Sarah had lost her husband in a Kresh raid 7 years ago. She knew the price of weakness. "Honored delegates," Sarah began. Her voice was calm but carried to every corner of the vast room. "I stand before you today to present a full report on what you are calling the Meridian Incident. I want to make sure every species in this chamber understands exactly what happened and why." The delegates shifted in their seats. Sarah could see fear in many faces. Good. They should be afraid. 3 months ago, the cargo ship Meridian's Hope was ambushed by 7 Kresh Dominion warships while traveling through neutral space. The Kresh demanded surrender. Captain Maria Chen refused. When the Kresh opened fire, Captain Chen activated what we call the Prometheus Protocol. Sarah pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared above the podium. It showed the sphere from the Meridian's Hope, the device that had created the singularity. This is a Prometheus device. Every human ship, from the largest military battleship to the smallest civilian transport, carries one. When activated, it creates an artificial singularity that expands to consume everything within 5 light years. The process cannot be stopped once started. The device cannot be disarmed. A delegate from the Vrex Federation stood. She was a tall, bird-like creature with bright feathers. "Ambassador Chen, are you telling us that every human ship is a doomsday weapon?" "Yes," Sarah said simply. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. The Vrex delegate continued. "That's insane. What if there's an accident? What if a device activates by mistake?" "The devices require specific authorization codes from the ship's captain," Sarah explained. "Multiple safeguards prevent accidental activation. But once those protocols are followed and the device is armed, there is no going back." A Kresh delegate rose. He was smaller than Vexlar had been, with graying mandibles that showed his age. "Ambassador, my government deeply regrets the incident with the Meridian's Hope. Commander Vexlar's actions were unauthorized and against our current policies. But I must ask, why would you sacrifice your own people like this? Why not simply surrender?" Sarah looked at him directly. "Because we learned that surrendering to your people is the same as dying. The Aurora's Dream surrendered 5 years ago. Your forces took everything and left 300 humans floating in space. Half of them died before rescue arrived. We decided then that we would never let that happen again. But to kill yourselves rather than surrender? That's madness, is it?" Sarah asked. "Tell me, honored delegate, how many human ships have been attacked since the Meridian incident?" The Kresh delegate was silent. "None," Sarah answered for him. "Not one. Because now everyone knows the price. Attack a human ship and you die too. You lose your ships, your crews, maybe your colonies. The price is too high, so no one attacks us anymore." A delegate from the Zinth Collective spoke up. "The Zinth were a peaceful species, traders and artists. But Ambassador Chen, you killed 40 of your own people, and Commander Vexlar's crew of 70, and 3 Kresh colonies with millions of civilians. How can you justify such loss of life?" Sarah felt the weight of those numbers. She had thought about them every day for 3 months. But she also thought about the Aurora's Dream, and the dozens of other ships that had been attacked by pirates and predators over the years. "I don't justify it," Sarah said quietly. "Those deaths weigh on my conscience and on the conscience of every human leader. We wish it hadn't been necessary. But I ask you to consider the alternative. If we had not implemented the Prometheus Protocol, how many more ships would have been attacked? How many more crews would have been forced to surrender and watch their families die?" She paused, looking around the chamber. "The Kresh alone attacked 17 ships in the year before Prometheus. 17 crews forced to surrender, their cargo stolen, sometimes their lives taken. The Gareth Syndicate attacked 8 ships. The Vex Marauders attacked 12. Every year, dozens of human vessels were prey for anyone strong enough to threaten them. And now," Sarah continued, "0 attacks. Not because we became stronger, not because we built bigger weapons, but because we made it clear that attacking us costs more than it's worth. We weaponized the one thing that makes humans different from most species. We would rather die with honor than live in submission." The Vrex delegate spoke again. "You make it sound noble, but you're holding the entire galaxy hostage. Any species that gets near your ships risks total destruction." "Only if they attack us," Sarah corrected. "We don't activate the Prometheus Protocol for accidents or misunderstandings. It requires deliberate hostile action and a direct threat to the ship. If you don't attack us, you're perfectly safe." A delegate from the Tau Collective stood. The Tau were warriors, respected throughout the galaxy for their military prowess. The delegate, a massive creature with 4 arms and armor-like skin, spoke in a deep voice. "Ambassador Chen, I want to understand your thinking. My species values strength and honor in combat, but we also value strategic wisdom. What you've done is remove the possibility of combat entirely. You've made it so that attacking any human vessel is guaranteed suicide. In a way, you've achieved perfect deterrence. That was the goal, Sarah confirmed. The TAL delegate nodded slowly. I respect it. It's brutal but effective. My government will be instructing all TAL vessels to treat human ships with the same caution we would use around a stellar anomaly. Dangerous if approached carelessly, but harmless if given proper distance. Thank you, honored delegate, that's all we ask. Safe passage and respect for our sovereignty. Over the next hour, more delegates spoke. Some condemned the Prometheus Protocol as barbaric. Others praised it as innovative deterrence. But all of them understood the message: humans were no longer prey. Finally, the head of the Galactic Council, a wise old being from the elder species, spoke. Ambassador Chen, the Council must consider the implications of your protocol. You have fundamentally changed the balance of power in the galaxy. No species can now threaten human vessels without risking their own destruction. That's correct, Sarah said. Some would call this tyranny through terror. Others would call it self-defense through deterrence, Sarah replied. We don't threaten anyone. We simply make it clear that attacking us is not profitable. In fact, it's catastrophic. The elder considered this. You have created a situation where peace with humanity is the only logical choice. Yes, Sarah agreed. And isn't peace the goal of this council? The elder's expression was unreadable. Perhaps. Or perhaps you have simply revealed that humans are more dangerous than anyone suspected. Tell me, Ambassador, what stops you from using these devices as weapons? What stops you from threatening other species with activation unless they give you what you want? Sarah had expected this question. Our own values. We designed the Prometheus Protocol as a defensive measure only. The authorization codes are locked to the ship's captain and can only be activated when the ship is under attack. We can't use them offensively because the codes won't work unless there's an immediate threat to the vessel. You could change that, the elder pointed out. We could, Sarah admitted, but we won't. Because the moment we use Prometheus as an offensive weapon, we become the monsters we were trying to defend against. The protocol works because it's defensive. Everyone knows that if they leave human ships alone, nothing happens. That's the key. It's a shield, not a sword. The elder was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. I believe you, Ambassador Chen, and I hope your species maintains that principle, because the day humans begin using Prometheus offensively is the day the galaxy will unite against you. Understood, Sarah said, and agreed. The council session ended shortly after. No formal resolutions were passed, no treaties were signed, but everyone understood the new reality. Humans were no longer weak prey. They were something else entirely. Something that chose mutual destruction over submission. Word spread quickly through the galaxy. The story of the Meridian's hope became legend. Some species told it as a warning, others told it as inspiration, but everyone remembered it. A memorial station was built at the edge of the dead zone, exactly 5 light-years from the Singularity Center. It was a simple structure, just an observation platform with a monument. On the monument were carved 40 names, the crew of the Meridian's Hope who had died in the attack. Below the names was an inscription in multiple languages. They chose erasure over submission. We honor their choice. We pray we never make it again. The station became a place of pilgrimage. Humans came to remember and mourn, but others came too. Creche delegates came to pay respects and to remember what happens when predators underestimate their prey. Frex philosophers came to study the nature of sacrifice and deterrence. Tal warriors came to meditate on the meaning of strength, and every ship that passed near the dead zone slowed down, just for a moment, to acknowledge what had happened there. Maria Chen visited the memorial once, 6 months after the incident. She stood alone on the observation deck looking out at the dead zone. It looked empty, just a region of space where no stars shone, but she knew what was there. A wound in reality, a scar that would never heal. I'm sorry, She whispered to the darkness, to her crew who had died, to the Kresh soldiers who had just been following orders, to Commander Vexlar, who had learned the truth too late. I'm so sorry. But she wasn't sorry for what they had done, only that it had been necessary. A young officer approached her. Captain Chen, there's a delegation here to see you. They're from the Kresh Dominion. Maria turned in surprise. They're here? Now? Yes, ma'am. They say they have a message for you. Maria followed the officer to the station's conference room. Inside, 3 Kresh delegates waited. They stood when she entered, their mandibles clicking in what Maria had learned was a sign of respect. The lead delegate spoke. Captain Chen, I am Kelvar, representative of the Kresh Dominion. We have come to ask your forgiveness. Maria blinked. Forgiveness? For the attack on your ship, for the deaths of your crew, for Commander Vexalar's actions. Kelvar clicked his mandibles again. The Dominion has officially changed its policies. We no longer engage in aggressive expansion. We no longer attack civilian vessels. We no longer prey on the weak. Because you're afraid of the Prometheus Protocol, Maria said. Yes, Kelvar admitted, but also because we learned something from Commander Vexalar's final words. He told us that humans are not prey. He told us that you value freedom more than life. And he was right. We were wrong to treat you as prey. We were wrong to think that physical weakness meant submission. Maria studied the 3 Kresh delegates. They looked sincere, but she had learned not to trust easily. What do you want from me? She asked. Nothing, Kelvar said. We simply wanted you to know that your sacrifice was not meaningless. The Meridian's hope changed the galaxy. Because of what you did, because of the choice you made, humanity is now safe from predators like us. And we have learned to be better than we were. Maria felt tears in her eyes. She hadn't expected this. Thank you, she said quietly. The Kresh delegates bowed and left. Maria stood alone in the conference room for a long time, thinking about what they had said. The Meridian's hope had been just a cargo ship, 40 people doing their jobs, delivering supplies to colonies on the edge of space. They hadn't asked to be heroes. They hadn't wanted to die, but they had changed everything. And maybe, Maria thought, that was enough.